What is management? A lot of different definitions to it. You'll hear a lot of people saying, I'm going to be a leader, not a manager. And you'll hear all kinds of different things of, well, this is a leader. The bulk of your leadership books really are nothing but ego books where somebody sits down and they want to broadcast about, look at the great things I did, what I'm wonderful. And very few of them have serious content to them. Here's a simple truth when it comes about the discussion of management, and especially management and leadership. There are managers that simply are not leaders. They do the different acts to get things done, and usually a lot of the management develops focus on sitting there trying to get them to elevate themselves into that leadership status, but some of them do not focus on it well enough to sit down and ever rise to that level. Now, I've also heard people that claim they're leaders, but simply don't know how to manage. And they do all this yapping over here, but you can't be an effective leader if you don't manage. Now, there's a difference between managing the details and knowing the details. A good leader knows that there's details to be done. They can recognize when the details are done properly. That's a big skill set of a leader, but you don't have to do the details. You don't even have to know all the details. You just got to know pretty much what they have to be done. So that leaders depend on managers, and managers really depend upon the leaders, especially to get that vision thing going out there. And that really does play a critical role. We're going to talk about the functions of management. We're talking about all the different things because this class is an overview of the concept of management as a whole. So we'll talk about how we define it. We're going to talk about the multiplier effect and talk about the aspect of the rewards of studying and practicing management. Well, there are some. So we'll talk about that aspect of it. Here's an example, and I'll be showing you several of them, of people that I've watched over the years to be great leaders. Mary Barra, she rose up through the ranks at General Motors. I want you to visualize how big General Motors is. It doesn't employ 1,000 people. It doesn't employ 10,000 people. It employs hundreds of thousands of people across the entire planet Earth. There's factories all over the place. One time in 2015, she walked into a GM factory in India, and they're doing a $200 million renovation that she never knew anything about. And she turns to the person that accompanied her to her and says, what is this? They actually shut it down and redid a couple things. She actually shrank General Motors, if you can believe that, because of the fact it was too cumbersome because the communication channels weren't very big. She's still sitting in the chair. If you're going to sit in the chair of being a chief executive officer with a whole board of directors consisting of stockholders that are watching you and making money off of you, you better be good. She is good, but she rose through the ranks as a leader that paid attention to the details. She knows the details, and what details she doesn't know, she knows they need to be done, and she knows when they're done well. That's real leadership. So I want you to pay attention to things like that. Jeff Bezos, he had a giant lucrative career making money hand over fist on Wall Street, and then him and his wife Mackenzie decided they went to a book conference. I kid you not, they went to a book selling conference. They never owned a bookstore, never sold a book. They decided, hey, this is growing 2,400% annually, this internet selling stuff. Let's try this out. So right in the middle of the year, he dropped a lot of money on bonuses, and he left his job, opened up July 5th, 1995 in the garage and started selling books across planet Earth. 3 months later, they had to run a warehouse, got a $250,000 loan from mom and pop, and they opened up a warehouse, and they went on their way. Now, that being said, don't think for a second Jeff Bezos is one-dimensional and he got lucky. Jeff Bezos now, by the time he sat there and pulled the reins in, just less than 30 years later, he was sat down and turned Amazon from being a garage bookstore into a 40 different corporations underneath the Amazon banner. We'll talk about a lot of the different people that managed and led organizations in the process. An exceptional manager is an art that can be learned. Part of it is actually learning how to pay attention to the details. Part of getting things done through people. If you can sit down and communicate well to people, that is going to be a huge skill set, and you'll be hearing that an awful lot. That is how you get things done. If you can't get people to execute and do the jobs you want them to do, you'll be doing the work yourself. That's a big thing. If you don't know how to sit down and develop a vision as to what you want to have happen in your division or your department and get people to buy into it, you'll be doing the work yourself. You do need to be task-oriented, achievement-oriented, but above all things, you need to be people-oriented because you'll be working with those people to get them to do the things that you want them to do. You're looking at efficiency, you're looking at effectiveness, and really, people should be looking at you as you sit down and use that multiplier effect. It's not just you. You have a whole division moving forward every single step of the way in the process, and you're creating value for the organization. You're being multiplied past the funding that you have, past the staff that you have, creating something of great value for the organization and making yourself invaluable to move forward. Part of it is how you relate to supervisors, how you relate to the colleagues that are right around you at your same level, and also how you relate down to the employees. Now, I've been different levels of manager my entire life, and as a vice chancellor, I would sit down next to the lowest level of my department, a human resource specialist. I would plop down a chair and say, "Hey, how's it going?" And I'd sit down there and have a 15, 20-minute conversation. In the meantime, the executive director, the director, and the manager, they're all hovering saying, "What's he doing over there?" Sometimes you do that just to rattle them. Sometimes just because you want to. Sometimes you do it because you want to know. And sometimes you do it because of the fact that if you know what that person's knowing, you can get more common sense out of them sometimes than the managers in the process too. Listen, listen, listen. That's called interact with your coworkers and don't think you're above to go and talk to the lowest person in your division. Don't ever think that because they're the ones that are going to have your back and pay attention to that. Make more money during your career. We'll talk about how to go about doing that and get the sense of accomplishment. There's an awful lot of work out there. Whenever you have a project come together, there is an intrinsic feeling on the inside that I have accomplished something. Woohoo! And you have a celebration. I'm telling you, it's there if you do it well and look for it. Can you build your resume up in the aspect of products and services that you have? Can you sit down there and have their own sense of worth on the inside? Here are the 4 basic functions, and we're going to spend a lot of time talking about each one of these four different functions, more than a chapter. So planning in part 3, organizing in part 4, leading part 5, controlling in part 6. Planning, there's 4 different types of planning. Organizing, there's all kinds of different ways to organize and structure an organization to get things done. Leading, the only kind of leader that you have really is the aspect is somebody following you? If somebody's following you, then you're a leader because you're the one being followed. Okay, but we'll talk about that. We'll talk about the 5 bases of power and how you can actually use that power to be successful. We'll talk about the aspect, and this is probably one that's most overlooked, as do you follow through and check on people? Are you controlling? Are you watching the plans come together? Are you checking in that it's doing what you thought it would be doing? Are your employers doing the things that you expect them to do? Here are the 4 different aspects of the planning process. We'll talk about traditional management. We call it the pyramid, when you actually sit down and look up and down the whole organization. We'll also talk about the flat structure as well. We'll talk about the different levels of management, and we'll talk about the different kinds of organizations you'll have. Here is a pyramid type. You'll see the top managers at the top. Well, like we're expecting the top manager to be at the top. Middle managers, first line managers, team leaders. Talk about the non-manager employees. Now, let me give you something. We'll talk about the common sense element. I promise you that I would do that. The team leaders is one of the hardest jobs in the whole thing here. Seriously. And then that first line manager, because you got the people on top wanting their things done and they want it all done now. They want it done their way. Okay. And you got the people on the bottom pushing back saying it can't be done, can't be done. I think that first line manager is the toughest one of all. So we'll talk about what that means. Having a dual pressure, something at the top and something at the bottom. You'll sit down and talk about the different things that's all involved about team activity. So what is management? It can be a tough job. It can be a rewarding job. Sometimes it doesn't feel like the money is worth it because in theory you should be making money. In some cases, even like here at our college, sometimes you can sit down and point some of the faculty make more money than their bosses that are supposed to be the dean. So you'll have different issues like that. You'll have different things in compensation. How many hours do people put in? Does the manager expect you to work more hours? What about work-life balance? We'll talk about that and what does that mean? Although, to be honest, if you look at work-life balance, some of the greatest people that are the most famous in leadership, They really don't have work-life balance because they spend so much time there. I'll bet Mary Barra probably doesn't have work-life balance. She spends an awful lot at GM, but she probably gets paid a couple $1 million over here to get the job done. That could probably be some good compensation for that. So what is management? Management really is the aspect of getting people to do the things they're supposed to do to benefit the organization. Are you worthy? Can you learn it? Is this for you? Let's find out. Take care.